They dominated the airwaves, filled stadiums, and redefined what it meant to be a rock band in Ireland. But from the gritty streets of Dublin to international fame, these are the bands that took Irish rock to new heights. So join me now as I break down the sounds, the stories, and the sheer power behind the bands that became the true titans of Irish music. So let's start with Horslips, who were formed in 1970 in Dublin, and they were true pioneers of Celtic rock, blending traditional Irish music and the energy and experimentation of rock. Their early album showcased a love for Irish folk, with instruments like fiddles, tin whistles, and accordions. These were seamlessly incorporated into progressive rock structures. The 1972 debut, Happy to Meet, Sorry to Part, was a groundbreaking release that combined traditional jigs and reels with complex guitar and rhythm arrangements. However, it was their 1976 album, The Book of Invasions, that truly defined their sound and solidified their legacy. Based on Irish mythology, this concept album was an ambitious fusion of traditional Irish melodies, intricate guitar work, and a progressive rock's complex rhythms, making it one of the first albums to fully integrate folk and rock into a cohesive narrative. Horslips' ability to switch between foot-stomping Celtic rhythms and intricate prog rock sections made them one of the most innovative bands of the 1970s. And throughout the decade, they released a string of albums, with The Tain in 1973, a concept album based on the legendary Irish epic, and Dancehall Sweethearts in 1974, further establishing their reputation in both Irish rock and progressive circles. Even after disbanding in 1980, their influence reverberates in the work of modern Celtic rock bands. Horslips remain a beloved and enduring name in Irish music, and their fusion of rock and Irish tradition continues to inspire musicians around the world. Skid Row, not to be confused with the latter American band, was one of Ireland's most influential progressive rock acts of the time. Formed in Dublin in 1967, they were fronted by bassist Brendan Bush Shields and featured the young prodigy Gary Moore. Their music was a blend of heavy blues and progressive rock, and they quickly gained reputation for their intensive live performances. Their debut album, Skid, in 1970, was a powerhouse of raw energy, with heavy riffs and virtuosic solos that showcased Moore's extraordinary talent. Tracks like Unco Up Showbad Blues captured the band's dynamic playing with its shifting tempos and complex structures. Their second album, 34 Hours in 1971, continued to push boundaries with longer compositions that allowed the band to fully explore their experimental tendencies. Moore's departure later that year did mark a significant turning point for the band, and although they carried on with different lineups, they were never quite the same. But despite their relatively short lifespan, Skid Row's early work is regarded as seminal, particularly for Gary Moore, who went on to achieve global fame. However, his time in Skid Row was where his immense talent first began to shine, laying the groundwork for his later success in blues and rock. Frupp, hailing from Northern Ireland, brought a symphonic flair to their progressive rock scene. Formed in 1971, they became known for their intricate compositions that really blended classical influences with rock's more experimental side. Now, their debut album, Future Legends, in 1973, it's often considered a lost gem of 1970s prog era, showcasing the band's ability to craft sweeping melodies and elaborate song structures. Frupp drew inspiration from the progressive rock greats like Genesis and Yes, but added their own ethereal touch, making their music both grandiose and deeply emotional. Songs like Decision and Song for a Thought really encapsulated their blend of technical virtuosity and haunting beauty. The follow-up albums, Seven Secrets in 1974 and Modern Masquerades in 1975 continued to explore fantasy-themed lyrics and complex musical arrangements, pushing the boundaries of progressive rock. Although Frupp never achieved the same level of mainstream attention as their British counterparts, they were revered within prog circles for their ambitious symphonic approach. They disbanded in 1976, but the music remains a treasured discovery for fans of the more symphonic and theatrical side of progressive rock. Thin Lizzy might be the best known for their hard-hitting rock anthems like The Boys Are Back in Town, but their early years were marked by a strong progressive streak. Formed in 1969 in Dublin by the charismatic Phil Lynott, Thin Lizzy initially blended blues, folk and rock, but soon began incorporating more expansive progressive elements into their sound. Albums like Vagabonds of the Western World 1973 and Nightlife in 1974 featured intricate guitar harmonies, complex song structures, and Lynott's evocative storytelling, all of which hinted at the band's progressive leanings. Their use of dual lead guitars, particularly with Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham, really became a signature element of their sound, adding depth and texture to their music. As they moved towards a more mainstream rock direction, particularly with the release of Jailbreak in 1976, their early progressive influences remained evident in their ambitious compositions and Lynott's poetic lyrics, often touching on themes of Irish identity and mythology. Thin Lizzy's ability to blend rock with progressive elements made them one of the most influential bands to come out of Ireland. Mushroom were a lesser-known gem in the Irish progressive rock scene. They were formed in Dublin in the early 1970s. Their one album, Early One Morning in 1973, is a stunning fusion of psychedelia and progressive rock. The band stood out for their use of flute, acoustic guitars and lush orchestral arrangements and created a sound that was both pastoral and progressive. The title track, Early One Morning, is a sprawling multi-part suite that showcases their ability to blend traditional Irish folk melodies with the more expansive, experimental structures of progressive rock.
Early one morning I found that you were gone.
Mushroom's music was deeply rooted in Irish folklore and mythology, giving their songs a timeless, otherworldly quality. But despite the promise, the band disbanded after just one album. But Early One Morning has since achieved cult status among prog rock enthusiasts. Their unique blend of traditional Irish sounds and modern rock experimentation really left a lasting impact on the Irish prog scene. Granny's Intentions, formed in Limerick in the mid-60s, were among the first Irish rock bands to experiment with blending blues, rock and progressive elements. In 1970, they had an album, Honest Injun. This was a pivotal release in the Irish rock scene, showcasing intricate songwriting and a willingness to push beyond the conventional rock structures of the time. Tracks like Waiting on You and The Story of David revealed the band's progressive inclinations with layered guitars and complex arrangements that really set them apart from their peers.
You're stuck, you'd better give up and go back to work, Mr. Miller.
Now, whilst they never achieved major commercial success, Granny's Intentions played an important role in the evolution of Irish progressive rock, and they influenced many bands that followed. Mellow Candle were a progressive folk band from Dublin, and they released one of the most revered albums of the genre, Swaddling Songs, in 1972, and their sound was characterised by ethereal, haunting vocal harmonies provided by Clodagh Simmons and Alison Williams, and delicate acoustic arrangements that drew comparisons to Fairport Convention and Renaissance at the time. Tracks like Heaven Heath and The Poet and the Witch featured intricate acoustic guitar work and subtle orchestral touches, creating quite a dreamlike atmosphere.
He came to fall upon a faithless smile, leaning eyes towards the clay.
They only released one album. Swaddling Songs has grown in stature over the years and it's become really a beloved classic among fans of progressional folk. Peggy's Leg, a true hidden treasure of Irish progressive rock, formed in Dublin in 1972, and their only album, Granilla, in 1973, showcased their ambitious symphonic approach to the genre, drawing influences from bands like Yes and King Crimson, with long, intricate compositions, lush keyboard arrangements and complex time signatures. Peggy's Leg was one of the few Irish bands to fully embrace the symphonic side of progressive rock. Though they disbanded shortly after the release of Gradilla, their music remains a cult favourite among prog enthusiasts. And we end this time with Tia Na Nog, formed in 1969, who brought a distinctly Irish folk flavour to the progressive rock scene. Their 1971 debut album blended acoustic guitars, poetic lyrics and gentle harmonies steeped in Irish mythologies. Songs like Licking Up and Our Love Will Not Decay combined folk storytelling with progressive innovation, and this created a sound that was both pastoral and exploratory. Often compared to Nick Drake and Pentangle, their delicate, atmospheric music set them apart in the prog world, and their influence continues to be felt in the prog genre today. Thanks for tuning in and exploring how these incredible Irish bands help shape rock music. But don't go just yet. If you're hungry for more musical history, be sure to check out our deep dives into Scotland's and Wales' most influential bands as well. From the rugged highlands to the valleys of Wales, we uncover the legends that really defined rock in these regions. The link to the full playlist is here, and I'll see you over there.